Jake Carter stood alone at the edge of the glowing blue garden. Flowers the size of dinner plates opened and closed slowly, shining under the twin moons of Altheria. This planet was beautiful, Jake thought, for someone like him. He was just a simple human cadet from Earth, sent here to study alien cultures. The Galactic Union chose a few humans each year to live among the advanced races, but so far no one talked to him. Most aliens thought humans were weak, noisy, or strange. Jake felt like a guest no one wanted. He often came to the royal gardens to sit quietly. It was the only place where no one stared. The soft wind, the singing leaves, and the gentle blue light helped him forget he was alone. But one evening, everything changed as Jake sat on a stone bench reading a small Earth book. He heard soft footsteps. He looked up and saw her Princess Arya, the daughter of the Empress of Altheria. Her skin was silver blue and glowed softly. Her long hair moved like water, even without wind. She wore a white robe with small stars stitched into it. She looked like a dream-man alien dream. Jake stood up quickly. "Your Highness," he said, nervous. "I didn't mean to be in your space." Arya smiled kindly. "You are not in my way. This garden belongs to everyone, even humans." Jake blinked. It was the first kind thing anyone had said to him in days. She sat beside him. "Is that a human book?" she asked, pointing. Jake nodded. "It's a story from Earth, about love." Arya tilted her head. "Love. Earth love. Is it different from Altherian love?" "I don't know," Jake said. "Maybe. On Earth, love is powerful. It can change people, even history." Arya's eyes sparkled. "Tell me more." From that night, they met often in the garden. At first, they talked about books, music, and planets. Arya was full of questions about Earth. She wanted to know how humans laughed, why they danced, and what chocolate tasted like. Jake showed her everything he could, and she listened like no one else ever had. He was careful, though. She was a princess, and he was a nobody. Wouldn't want to. Trouble. But inside, something was growing, something warm and painful. Days turned into weeks. Jake waited for their meetings more than anything else. He smiled more. He laughed again. He dreamed. But he never told her how he felt. He couldn't. She was too far above him, like the stars. One night, they sat together on a small hill in the garden. The stars above Altheria were brighter than any sky Jake had seen. Arya pointed to a cluster. "Those stars," she said, "are called the Heart of Fire in my language. It's said that if someone makes a wish under them, the stars listen." Jake looked at the stars, then at Arya. Her face was calm, her eyes soft. The way she looked at the stars made his heart ache. He turned away and whispered, almost to himself, "I wish I could marry her." He thought no one heard, but Arya turned. Slowly, Jake froze. His heart stopped. Her glowing eyes stared into his. "What did you say?" she asked gently. I didn't mean," Jake stammered. "I wasn't thinking. Please forget it." She didn't look angry. She didn't laugh. Instead, she smiled just a little. Then she said one word. "Yes." Jake blinked. "Yes. Yes," she repeated. "If you asked me, I would say yes." He didn't understand. Was she joking? Playing with him? "You're a princess," he said. "And I'm just Jake," she said softly. "I don't care about titles. I care about hearts. And yours is the most honest heart I've ever known." His mouth felt dry. "But what about your people? Your mother?" Arya looked at the stars again. "My people believe in peace and wisdom. But sometimes they forget love. Maybe it's time they remember." Jake was speechless. Was this real? Reached out, then pulled his hand back, unsure. She took his hand anyway, warm, glowing, light as air. Silence passed between them. Not awkward, but full. Finally, Jake said, "What happens now?" Arya smiled again. Now we wait for the stars to stir things." They stayed on the hill until the twin moons rose high. From that night on, their story had changed. What was once a secret friendship had become something more, something brighter, and far more dangerous. They didn't know yet, but the stars had truly heard Jake's wish, and nothing in the galaxy would be the same again. Jake couldn't sleep that night. He lay on his bed in the small guest chamber deep inside the palace. His mind repeated her words again and again. Yes, if you asked me, I would say yes. The Princess of Altheria had said she would marry him. It felt like a dream, but his heart told him it was real. He remembered the way she had held his hand under the stars. She didn't pull away. She didn't laugh or look shocked. She looked calm, happy even. Jake sat up, his chest full of hope and fear. What now? The next day, the palace was buzzing. Whispers floated through the halls. Servants looked at Jake and then quickly turned away. Guards stood straighter when he passed by. Even the kitchen workers went silent when he entered the food hall. Something had changed. Jake met Arya again in the garden that evening. She looked the same, peaceful, glowing, strong, but her voice was a little lower. "They know," she said quietly. "My mother, the council, many others." Jake froze. "What do they know?" "That we are close. Maybe more than close." His stomach dropped. "I'm sorry. Didn't mean to bring trouble." "You didn't bring it," Arya said. "Love brings change, and change brings fear." She turned and looked at the palace behind them. "Mother called me this morning. She told me that I must stop seeing you." Jake looked down. "Do you want to stop?" Arya gently touched his hand. "No. I've never wanted something more in my life. But I don't want you to get hurt." Jake smiled a little. "I'm human. We're stronger than we look." Later that night, Jake was summoned to the throne room. It was wide and tall, built from smooth white crystal. Long silver banners hung from the ceiling, each showing the royal symbol of Altheria star with 2 wings. At the far end stood Empress Lasara, Arya's mother. She wore a silver crown and a robe made of light. Her eyes were cold and sharp. Jake bowed. "You are Jake Carter of Earth," she said. Double quotes. "Yes, your majesty. You were chosen to study here and learn from our people, not to chase after my daughter." Jake kept his head down. "I did not plan it. It just happened." "Love does not just happen," the Empress said sharply. "Love causes wars. Love shakes worlds. My daughter's heart is not yours to hold." Jake looked up. "I understand, your majesty. But Arya is not a child. She can choose her own path." A long silence followed. "You speak boldly for a young human," she said. "But boldness does not make you worthy." Jake said nothing more. He knew words would not change her mind. After the meeting, Arya came to him in secret. "I spoke to the royal council today," she said. "They think I've lost my mind. They think I'm under some kind of earth spell." Jake laughed sadly. "Wish I had one. It might make things easier." But Arya was serious. "They're planning something, maybe to send you home." Jake stood up. "Let them try. I'm not leaving you." Tears touched the corner of Arya's eyes. "Then we must show them why I chose you. Not just as a man, but as a human." Jake looked at her. "How?" "By showing them the strength of Earth's heart and your courage." The next day, everything changed. Arya stood before the Galactic Council of Cultures, a group made up of leaders from many powerful planets. She wore her royal robe and carried a crystal orb, sign of her royal word. She spoke clearly. "I love Jake Carter of Earth," she said, "and I wish to be with him, not as a secret, but as truth."
Ow.
The room exploded into noise. Some leaders shouted. Others looked shocked. A few clapped softly. The Empress stood and raised her voice. "This is madness. Altheria is the light of peace. We do not mix royal blood with those who barely know spaceflight." A tall alien from the insect-like Zarnox species spoke. "Earth has proven brave in many battles. They may be young, but they have heart," others agreed. Some did not. One thing was clear. Jake and Arya's love was now known across the stars. That night, Jake returned to his room and found 2 palace guards waiting. "You must leave the palace," one said. "Orders from the Empress." "Where?" "Will I go?" Jake asked. "There is a transport ship. It leaves in 2 hours. Jake looked at them, then back at the hallway behind them. He saw Arya, at the end, standing in silence. She didn't cry. She didn't speak, she only touched her chest with her hand, a sign of love on Altheria. Jake did the same. Then he walked away, but the story did not end there. As Jake left the palace, a new problem was rising in space. A dark fleet had entered. Altherian space, ships with sharp wings and red engines, the Drossari Empire. They had watched Altheria's royal scandal from afar and now saw weakness. They wanted to attack while the planet was distracted. War was coming, and Jake Carter, the human boy with a brave heart, was about to get a second chance not just to protect Arya, but to fight for her world. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city of Altheria. But for Jake Carter, that glow felt distant. He had just learned of the approaching Drossari Empire, an aggressive force known for their ruthless conquests. They had been watching the royal scandal unfold from afar. Now, they believed Altheria was weak, vulnerable. They saw an opportunity to strike. The Empress called a royal meeting immediately. Summoning her top military commanders and advisors, Jake was not invited, but that didn't matter to him. He couldn't stand by and watch while Arya's home was threatened. He was human, but he had something the Drossari didn't: the courage to fight for what he loved. The palace was quieter than usual the next day. Most of the guards had been called to strategic positions around the city, while the royal council met to plan the defense. Jake waited, pacing in his room, wondering what Arya was doing. Couldn't help but feel helpless. But he also felt something else: determination. It wasn't long before the door to his room opened. It was Arya. "I thought you'd be at the meeting," Jake said, trying to sound casual. Arya walked inside, her eyes dark with worry. "Day. Didn't ask for you," she said, "but you are needed. The Drossari are coming. They will attack soon." "Not just going to sit here and wait," Jake said firmly. "I want to fight." Arya hesitated. "You don't know what they are capable of. They're stronger, more advanced than anything you've seen." "I've fought before," Jake said. "Back on Earth, we've had our own wars. We may not have your technology, but we have something you can't measure: courage." Arya looked at him for a long time. Then she nodded. "Then you must prove it, but not alone. Humans may not have the power of our ships, but you have other allies. If you want to stand by me, you need to show them that humans belong in this fight." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Jake was introduced to the Altherian general, Talon, a tall, imposing figure who was both strong and brilliant. In battle strategy, Talon, however, didn't trust humans. He didn't believe they could help, especially when they had so little experience in intergalactic warfare. But Jake's words left an impression on him. "I'll give you a chance, human," Talon said, his voice like thunder. "But you better be ready." "The Drossari don't play games," Jake nodded, his eyes steady. "I'm ready." They began planning their defense. The Drossari were not an army to be taken lightly. Their ships were fast and deadly, with sharp, angular designs. Their soldiers were fierce, known for their brutal hand-to-hand combat skills. But they were also arrogant, thinking their power could crush anything in their way. Jake knew this was the chance to prove that humanity had more to offer than just strength. They had resourcefulness. They had the ability to adapt quickly, too. Think outside the box. With the help of Talon and the Altherian engineers, Jake came up with a plan to use Earth's ancient strategies to their advantage. He suggested setting traps, using their limited resources to create decoy ships, using the landscape to hide their fleet, and setting up narrow passes where the Drossari would be vulnerable. It wasn't the most advanced strategy, but it was clever. It was a human strategy. Arya joined them for the final planning session. She looked at Jake, her expression filled with admiration. "I never knew humans could be so clever." Jake smiled. "We have to be. When we don't have the biggest guns, we use our heads." Together, they prepared for the coming storm. Jake spent hours helping the Altherians with their ship modifications. He learned quickly, picking up skills the humans on Earth could only dream of. But despite the busy preparations, there was a sense of dread in the air. The Drossari would arrive soon, and when they did, there would be no turning back. The day of the battle arrived with a terrible silence. The stars above were clear, but the space between them felt colder than ever. Jake stood alongside Arya on the bridge of an Altherian warship, watching as the first signals of the Drosari fleet appeared in the distance. Their ships were massive, dark, and menacing, their engines roaring like thunder. Jake's hands tightened around the railing. They're coming. Arya stood beside him, her face determined. We'll show them we're not weak. The battle began. The Drosari ships launched into the atmosphere fast and furious. They fired their weapons, causing explosions that shook the entire fleet. The Altherian ships fought back, but they were outnumbered. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he watched the chaos unfold. This wasn't a simulation. This wasn't a game. People were dying. Planets were being torn apart. Then the moment came. Jake gave the order to release the decoys. A group of human-made decoy ships, crafted from scrap materials, shot into the sky. The Drosari, thinking they had a clear victory, charged after them. But that's when the real trap was sprung. Jake's fleet, hidden in a nearby asteroid belt, ambushed the Drosari from all sides. The battle turned in their favor. Jake and Arya fought side by side, their ships dancing through the sky in a deadly game of cat and mouse. The Drosari, confused and enraged, began to lose control. In the end, they were forced to retreat. When the last Drosari ship disappeared into the stars, Jake and Arya stood together, watching the peaceful sky. Their hearts still raced, but they had won. Not because they had the most powerful weapons, but because they had the strength of heart. Jake turned to Arya, his eyes full of hope. We did it. She smiled softly, touching his cheek. We did it together. And in that moment, Jake knew that their love wasn't just something that changed their lives, it was something that could change the entire galaxy. The victory over the Drosari Empire was not just a battle won, it was a symbol. The humans had proven themselves worthy, and the galaxy was watching. For the first time, Jake Carter was no longer seen as an outsider, but as a hero, a human, who had stood by the Altherian princess and helped save her planet. The celebrations on Altheria were grand. Ships of every color filled the skies. Music, unlike anything Jake had ever heard on Earth, played through loudspeakers in the streets. The people of Altheria celebrated their victory, and at the center of it all, Jake was hailed as a hero. He stood beside Princess Arya as she addressed the crowd. The courage of one human has shown the universe what true bravery looks like, Arya said, her voice clear and strong. Jake Carter did not fight for fame or fortune. He fought for love. And because of his bravery, we are free. Jake didn't feel like a hero. He had done what needed to be done, and now all he wanted was to be with Arya. But the recognition felt too good. He smiled, but in the back of his mind, he couldn't forget the challenges ahead. The battle may have been won, but the future was still uncertain. The next day, the Galactic Council called a meeting to discuss the events that had unfolded. Jake and Arya were both summoned, but this time, it wasn't for a celebration. Council was interested in what had happened, how humans, with no advanced technology, had managed to outsmart the Drosari Empire. Jake was nervous. The council was made up of powerful beings, some peaceful, some ruthless. Many species had looked down on humans for centuries. This meeting would determine whether humanity would be accepted as more than just a curiosity in the galaxy. As they entered the council chamber, Jake could feel the eyes of hundreds of delegates on him. Arya walked beside him, her calm presence offering him a little comfort. But Jake still felt like an insect in a room full of giants. The council meeting began with a long speech from the Zarnok leader, a giant alien with silver skin and piercing eyes. The human named Jake Carter has done the impossible, the Zarnok said. He has led the Altherians to victory. But we must ask, what is humanity's true role in the galaxy? Are they prepared to handle the responsibilities that come with such power? Jake stood straighter. We may not have the technology you do. We may not have the long history you have. But we have the ability to adapt. We learn quickly, and we fight for what we believe in. We are ready to stand alongside you. The room was quiet. One of the council members, a tall being with tentacles, spoke up. And what about the Altherian princess? Will your people allow your kind to rule together, or will you be a barrier? Jake looked at Arya, his heart in his chest. He had already thought about this, the challenges they would face as a couple, the way their love would be viewed by both their people. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. I will not speak for humanity, Jake said, his voice steady. But I can tell you this. I love Arya. And if that is enough to bring peace, then I will fight for that peace. I will fight beside her, and I will fight for all the worlds that need hope. Arya placed her hand on his shoulder, her glowing eyes filled with pride. The council room was still for a moment. Then the Tavori, representative of a species known for their wisdom, spoke. This human has courage. He speaks from the heart. But courage is not enough. We must see action. We must see humanity's commitment to peace. The debate that followed was long. Some council members argued that humanity was too young, too unpredictable, to be trusted. Others saw Jake's bravery as proof that humans could be a valuable ally. Jake knew the stakes were high. His words alone wouldn't be enough to change the minds of the council. But he didn't give up. He knew what was right and he would fight for it no matter what. Finally, the council voted. The result was close. But in the end, humanity was given a chance to prove themselves worthy of joining the Galactic Union. The days after the vote were strange. Jake had thought that once the battle was won, life would return to normal. But now the weight of what they had accomplished, what they were about to accomplish, was heavier than ever. Arya and Jake spent hours talking about their future, their challenges, and their dreams. They knew they could never escape the expectations of their people. But they also knew that together, they could face anything. One evening, the two of them sat on a balcony overlooking the peaceful city of Altheria. Jake turned to Arya. The stars above them seemed brighter than ever before. I never thought I would be here, Jake said, his voice soft. I never thought I'd be standing beside you fighting for this world, for our love. Arya smiled and took his hand. You are more than you realize. You are the bridge between our two worlds. Jake looked out at the sky, his mind filled with thoughts of Earth, his home. He missed his planet, his family, and his friends. But now, he had something else. Something even bigger than Earth. He had a place in the stars. I'm ready, Jake said, his voice full of conviction. Ready to fight for what's right? Ready to stand with you? Arya leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. Together she whispered. Jake nodded, looking up at the stars that now felt like his own. The sky over Altheria was peaceful. But the palace halls were full of tension. Though the Dressari War had ended, and Jake Carter was now seen as a hero, not everyone was ready to accept what came next. A human marrying the princess of Altheria? For some, it was too much, too fast. Even after the victory, the Royal Council argued every day. Some members supported Jake and Arya's union, calling it a symbol of hope. Others feared it would weaken the royal bloodline or cause unrest among the citizens. In the middle of it all stood Empress Lasara. She had watched Jake fight. She had seen him risk his life for Ariand, for Altheria. But her heart still struggled to accept him as family. She loved her daughter and wanted her to be happy, but tradition was strong. Breaking it could change everything. Jake was brought before the council again. This time he stood tall. He had proven his bravery. Now, he had to prove his heart. One council member, a pale-skinned elder named Vor, spoke coldly. You may have helped in battle, human, but marriage is not war. It is duty. You do not understand our customs, our bloodlines, our future. Jake stayed calm. You're right. Don't understand all your traditions. But I understand love. I understand loyalty. I would never bring shame to Arya or to this kingdom. Words are easy, Vor replied. But what will you do when other planets refuse to respect us because of this union? Jake looked around the chamber. Let them talk. Let them doubt. And when they do, we'll show them something stronger than fear. We'll show them unity. Later that evening, Jake met Arya in the garden again. It had become their secret place where everything had started. Arya was quiet. She stood by the glowing flowers, her eyes full of thought. Jake walked over and took her hand. "They're still fighting it," he said softly. She nodded. "Doe. My mother says she's torn between tradition and truth." Jake sat beside her. "Maybe I should go back to Earth. I don't want to break your world apart." Arya looked at him sharply. "No, don't even say that. You didn't break anything. You've only shown us how blind we've been." He sighed. "Then what do we do now?" Arya held his hand tighter. "We let the people decide." Jake blinked. "The people," yes, she said. "Not just the council. Not just my mother. We let the entire Galactic Union see our truth. Let them speak." "I want to give it wings," Arya said with a smile. News spread fast. For the first time in history, a royal marriage decision would be brought before the Galactic Union Public Forum, a vote open to every planet under the Union's rule. Billions of beings would have the chance to speak, to send a message, to say yes or no to a marriage between a human and an alien royal. Some leaders called it foolish. Others called it brave. Jake and Arya stood on the main stage of the Union's Grand Hall, located on a neutral moon called Vestra Prime. It was a place where no one had power over the other, a place where all voices mattered as they stepped forward. Millions watched live across the galaxy. Jake's voice echoed in the Great Hall. "I didn't come here to cause trouble. I came here to learn. But I found something more, something powerful. I found love. I love Princess Arya, not because she is royalty, but because she is kind, wise, and brave. If that love is wrong, then maybe we need to ask why." Arya followed. "My people say we are the light of peace, and let that peace begin with love. Jake is not of my world, but he carries the same hope we all share. If we can accept each other, maybe our future will be brighter." The speeches touched hearts. For 2 days, the galaxy spoke. Messages flooded in from Earth, Altheria, and dozens of other planets. Some messages were full of support. "Let them love. This is the future. We are not just races. We are one people." Others were fearful. What if this opens the door to confusion? Are we ready for this change? The vote closed at midnight. All eyes turned to the Union's main screen. The results flashed. Yes. 62% nitrogen monoxide. 38% the galaxy had spoken. That night, back in Altheria, the Empress stood before her daughter and Jake. She looked at them both for a long time. Then she smiled a soft, gentle smile. "The stars once told me that love could lead to ruin," she said. "But now I see it can also lead to something new, something brighter." She stepped forward, holding out a small silver crest. "Royal seal. Jake Carter of Earth, I welcome you to the royal family." Jake bowed low. "Thank you, Your Majesty." As the Empress turned to Arya, "You've made your choice. And now, so have I." The Great Hall of Altheria had never seen such light. Tall crystal pillars sparkled in every color. Floating lights moved gently through the air like glowing butterflies. A sweet song, made by instruments from many planets, filled the space. Beings from all over the galaxy stood in silence, her eyes fixed on the center stage. Today was not just a royal wedding. Today was history. Jake Carter stood straight in a finely made dark blue suit with a silver stripe across his chest, the colors of both Earth and Altheria. His heart beat fast, but not from fear. This time it was joy. He looked around and still couldn't believe it. This was real. He, a simple human from Earth, was about to marry Princess Arya, the daughter of Empress Lysara, in front of the entire Galactic Union. The days leading up to this moment had not been easy. Even after the Council's approval, many beings still had doubts. Some said it was wrong. Others feared it would start new problems between species. But none of that mattered now, because one by one, the voices of support grew louder. On Earth, people celebrated the news. For the first time, humans were not just watching the stars, they were part of them. On Altheria, the younger generation spoke up. "Let love guide us," they said. "Let peace begin with unity." Finally, Empress Lysara herself stood before her people and said, "At first, I feared this change. but fear cannot rule a heart. My daughter has chosen with wisdom and love. Jake Carter has proven himself with courage and honor. He is no longer just a guest. He is one of us." That speech ended all protests. The wedding was approved as soft bells rang through the hall. The doors opened. Arya entered, dressed in a flowing white and silver gown. Her long, glowing hair moved like silk, and tiny stars floated above her head. Crown made of pure light. Jake's breath caught in his throat. She walked slowly down the aisle, her eyes fixed on him. Each step she took was soft but strong. She didn't walk like a princess. She walked like someone certain of her choice. She stopped beside him and took his hand. "Are you ready?" she whispered. Jake smiled. "I've been ready since the night you said yes." The ceremony was led by a galactic speaker, a peaceful being with a voice like wind and water. He spoke slowly and clearly so every species could understand. "Today," the speaker said, "we do more than join two hearts. We join two worlds, two paths, two hopes." He looked at Jake. "Do you, Jake Carter of Earth, choose Arya of Altheria with truth and trust?" Jake nodded. "I do." He looked at Arya. "Do you, Arya of Altheria, choose Jake Carter of Earth with love and light?" "I do," she said. The speaker raised his hands. "Then let the stars witness this bond. Let peace grow from it." Placed a shining band around each of their wrists, symbols of unity in Altherian tradition. Then he said, with a voice that echoed through space, "Let this marriage be the light that shows the galaxy a new way." As Jake and Arya turned to the crowd, the hall filled with applause. From insect-like Zarnok to crystal-bodied Lumari. Beings of every kind clapped, hummed, and shined in their own way. Above them, small ships flew in patterns painting the sky, with light trails that formed the words, "Unity, Love, Peace." Earth's flag waved proudly beside Altheria's symbol. For the first time ever, humans stood side by side with leaders from other stars, not as guests, but as equals. That night, the sky over Altheria danced. Jake and Arya stood on a balcony, holding hands looking up. Firelights and floating ribbons painted the stars in colors Jake had never seen before. Arya leaned against him. "You still think it's a dream?" Jake laughed. "A very good one, but no, I know it's real, because I can feel your hand." In mine, she smiled. "You're part of this world now, part of mine." He nodded. "I'll never stop protecting it." She looked at him with deep eyes. "Do you think others will follow us? More humans? More unions between worlds?" Jake thought for a moment. "I think we just opened the first door. Others will walk through it. Far away, on Earth, millions." Watched the replay of the wedding. Children pointed at the stars and said, "Someday I'll go there." Scientists cried. Soldiers saluted. Poets wrote about love stronger than distance. In schools, students learned about Jake Carter not as a soldier or a prince, but as a man who changed everything with a whisper. Later that night, Jake stood. Alone in the garden, the same place he had first met Arya, the stars were bright again. He smiled, remembering that quiet night when he had whispered a wish. He hadn't meant to say it out loud. But somehow, the stars and Arya had heard him. "I wish I could marry her," and she had turned and said yes. Now, that wish had become a light across the galaxy. Not just a story of love between a human and an alien princess, but the beginning of something far greater. A future where species could look past skin, language, and origin, and see each other as family.